Okay, welcome to this A-level anthology work on the unit on Buddhism, and in particular, this is the second of the papers uh, looking at the ideas of A.L. Basham around the idea of the Bodhisattva, and he's particularly concerned with the idea of its evolution, okay, its development. And just to introduce the topic first of all, and there will be a number of videos that will look at this anthology section by section, and you should be making notes on perhaps your unit booklet or in a piece of paper about each of the sections so you can dissect and analyze all of them. One key thing to learn is about what's called the historical critical method. Basham is a Western scholar who's applying a Western practice, the historical critical method. He's sympathetic to Buddhism, to religion, but fundamentally he's committed to this academic approach of the historical critical method, or higher criticism, sometimes it's called. He wants to investigate the origins of ancient texts. He's particularly interested in approaching religion as a product of textual development. That's his particular strategy or methodology in order to understand the world behind the text. Now, there are many approaches under the umbrella of historical criticism, or several disciplines, and these would include source criticism, form criticism, redaction criticism, tradition criticism, and a kind of radical criticism. And he uses some of each of these at different times throughout this anthology text. These are for him tools in his toolkit to develop an understanding of the text. And these tools were originally developed in Germany to apply to the Bible, to try and find a life of Christ, or the origins and historical narrative core of the Bible, or perhaps the mythology or whatever in the Bible. But now this method is used in other texts, be they Islamic or Buddhist texts or other religious texts. So we're reading from chapter 6 of actually a collection of writers that is more than just A.L. Basham. The editor is William Theodore de Bary, and Al Basham's contribution is chapter 6, the Bodhisattva. And this was published in 1969 in the book The Buddhist Tradition in India, China, and Japan. So let's get going with the first section. Let's read it and then analyze it. The essential difference between Mahayana and Theravada Buddhism is in the doctrine of the Bodhisattva, who in Mahayana becomes a divine savior, whose example the believers urge to follow. It must be remembered that all good Buddhists from the Mahayana point of view are bodhisattvas in the making, and many descriptions of bodhisattvas in Mahayana texts provide ideals for the guidance of monks and laymen alike. One of the chief qualities of the bodhisattva is his immense compassion for the worlds of all mortals. So let's look at this section by section. He says the essential difference between Mahayana and Theravada Buddhism is the doctrine of the Bodhisattva. Are all good Buddhists therefore bodhisattvas? Now, this bit of the text is italicized, and this is to help the reader differentiate his work from the textual quotations. Sometimes it's to denote a book, and sometimes it's a keyword in argument. So you need to pay attention to what he's saying. Are all good Buddhists bodhisattvas? Well, Basham introduces Mahayana belief in the one vehicle, Ekayana. This is a claim that is called inclusivism. It's an approach to salvation that's not pluralist or not exclusivist, it's inclusivist. And he thinks it's the Mahayana view that Theravada are really Mahayana Buddhists with half the truth. So it's a kind of inclusivist view. For Theravada, a bodhisattva is neither a Buddha well, is either only a Buddha or the king of Sri Lanka, nothing more, not ordinary people. So are all good Buddhist bodhisattvas? Possibly, possibly not, depending if you have a Mahayana or a Theravada view. What else can we ask? Do all Buddhists need to renounce the householder stage of life and become monks? It says in the text, in Mahayana becomes a divine savior whose example the believer is urged to follow. Well, what example? Basham explains that Mahayana today in general reject the need to renounce life, and that monks and laymen alike can become bodhisattvas. It's not the same for Theravada. The key Mahayana texts, the earliest texts in the collection called the Perfection of Wisdom literature, historically formed the very earliest strata of Mahayana literature. And in those texts, they provide guidance for monks and laymen alike. Why does Basham outline the Theravada Mahayana splinters but not take a view himself? Why has it? What is this objective Western, or is this objective Western bias? Basham explains this quality. What quality? The quality of the perfection of wisdom, um, as something that is generated by acts of Mahayana devotionalism and kindness meditation. Um, the guidance of Mahayana, of the Bodhisattva, the qualities of the Bodhisattva, his immense compassion, Basham will refer to as the ideal of the Bodhisattva. And he will explain later in this text the Bodhisattva's aim is to become a savior of all beings and set them free from their suffering. When it talks about the realm of mortals, past, future mortals, perhaps he's referring to the idea in Mahayana of the Trikaya doctrine, of the six realms, that these are actual real realms in a sense that reflect this in wider, more extravagant Buddhaverse in Mahayana. Here we see on the left a picture of the six realms of existence. And in Mahayana, these are taken as real. This is a Mahayana Thankra from Tibetan Buddhism. In Theravada, these are taken as more metaphorical realms, not and kind of less real in a sense. So Basham is noting, calling our attention to the idea of the soteriological view that differs between Theravada and Mahayana. The world of mortals is a lesser realm than the heavenly realms. And ultimately, these are lesser realms than the Dharma realm. Now, that's as far as Theravada will go, whereas Mahayana, as we said, have this much enlarged Buddhaverse with the Dharmakaya, the ultimate truth realm, the Nirmanakaya, the transformation realm, the earth realm, and this Sambhakaya, this heavenly realm. So that was section one. One key word to learn from this is the word bodhisattva. A bodhi, meaning an awakened, someone who's awakened or aware, and attva means a being. So a person who has reached or is able to reach nirvana, but in Mahayana, especially, delays going through to show compassion to all mortal beings. So this was section one.